The software industry, when you take a look at it, those are job creation. That's job creation. What the government is doing with these tax increases is job cremation. It is shifting revenue and resources from the private sector place to the government. Now this is one of 13 bills. All 13 bills impact, they call it the dirty baker's dozen. All 13 bills impact small business. 3 days ago we were down in Pueblo at Summit Brickware, a family that's been in the brick making business for 100 and some years down in Pueblo. They have 32-year employees that they have laid off. Their energy bills are going to skyrocket because of one of these 13 bills. We were at the steel making, over at the steel plant in Pueblo. We were at Pepsi-Cola. Now Pepsi-Cola, Denver is a huge, I mean they have 700,000 square feet. And the manager came to me and he said, well, first of all, don't kid yourself. He said, this is going to impact the price of a soft drink by 10 cents a drink. He said, it's not us. We're going to be hit, I think he said, I don't know, 40,000 a month or something. And he said, those are jobs. And the people in that company, when you looked at who were working out there in that plant for, this is everything that their life, their family life and their life focuses on, is having a quality job. And at Pepsi-Cola at Denver, they're quality jobs. It's interesting though what he said to me. He said, Scott, he said, I guess we're going to be able to absorb it, although we do have options whether or not we're going to expand this plant in Colorado. He said, the people that are really hurting are those vendors out there. He said, the small business vendors, just like you said, Laura. The ones, when they put those Coke machines, or Pepsi, I should say Pepsi since I was at the Pepsi plant, they put those Pepsi machines in these hallways or in schools, and they sign long-term contracts. They do not have clauses for tax increases like this. The mechanism that takes your coins or your dollar bills, try and adjust that for a 3-cent increase or 4-cent increase. You have to buy a whole new mechanism. That's probably half the price, or the big part. The refrigeration, and then that little part, small part of the big container drives most of the cost of those machines. Those people will suffer. Now these bills, the governor knows exactly what they're doing. I was very discouraged to listen to Laura say that she wrote these legislators that are deciding the futures of a lot of small businesses, or the demise, frankly, of a lot of small businesses, wouldn't even take the courtesy of responding to what I felt was one of the most clearly a letter that's from the heart, a letter that if you ever wanted a warning or a siren, it was it. And I've got it right here. That's why I carried up my BlackBerry. I want to read just one paragraph before we finish it. Not even a response. Now the only bipartisanship, a lot of us believe in bipartisanship. I was a majority leader. My responsibility was to build consensus. The only bipartisanship that you saw demonstrated up there in the last 2 weeks was the bipartisanship to vote no. Senator Paula Sandoval, for example, in restaurants, they're going to tax napkins. They're going to tax doggy bags or carry-out containers. She stood up and voted no. The ones that voted yes are lock-in step. They know what they're doing. Now they have all kinds of things they want to call it. They like to look at Laura, look at Duncan and say, you know what? We're closing loopholes. Go upstairs for just a minute and ask Laura, Laura, what loophole did you have that you've been able to employ these people up here? They're not closing loopholes. That's nothing but a decoy. It is a decoy so they don't have to face the public and tell the public they're raising taxes. Now they have a reputation up there, as you know, of either running over to the Supreme Court and getting something defined as a fee instead of a tax, or, and I happen to be the one who's got a lot of experience in how those committee processes work, what they attempted to do at first with these bills, instead of sending them to the Finance Committee, which is long-run tradition of where that goes, where it gets the maximum amount of exposure so the public knows and has debate about tax increases, they first attempted to send it to Appropriations Committee, sneak it out on the floor, and then get it done as rapidly as they could. So people like Laura, or people like Duncan, or people like every one of you in this room wouldn't even know what hit you. You know, if you've ever been to the nation's capital, it's very interesting. On the top of the dome of the nation's capital is a light. It used to be a lantern, actually, but it's a light now. And there's a requirement. They still follow the tradition. But the farmers, because when our nation was early and young, the farmers wanted to make sure that they knew whenever their elected officials were going to raise their taxes on it, because it could break the small farm. That was the small business of that day. So they required that light to be on anytime Congress was in session, which that tradition still stays today. That light is on. People have asked me, well, why does a senator get a 6-year term and a congressman have a 2-year term? Because the specific authorization, the only body in our government that can raise taxes at the national level is the United States House of Representatives. So the reason they had the 2-year term is that the forefathers wanted to make sure whoever raised taxes, because of the consequences that taxes had on a population, i.e. job killing in many cases, they wanted those people that had to be accountable to the voters earliest. So they gave them the smallest term, the 2-year term. The most limited term went to the group that had the most power over raising taxes. These tax bills will have very detrimental impacts to this state. Now, something could have been done. I went to the mayor of Denver, and I said, and the mayor of Denver and I've never had a cross word. But the mayor of Denver, I went to him about a week and a half ago, and I said, Mayor, you're the leading gubernatorial candidate for the Democrats. On the Republican side, I'm a gubernatorial candidate. If you and I went up, I know it well, they know me well, they know you well. There's only one vote difference on a lot of these bills. You're not only the mayor of the largest city in the Denver, you're not only a gubernatorial candidate, you're very influential in Democratic circles. I, in turn, think I have some influence in Republican circles, but the Republicans are voting no, as are some Democrats. But if you and I both went up there, I'll bet we could persuade, or maybe I don't go with you, you just sign a letter, or just make a public appearance that you oppose these tax bills. You refuse to do it. The reason they refuse to do it is because this is the first of many. You're about to hear more. Now there's another revenue estimate due on March 31st. If revenues are down, as I suspect they probably will be, because our state's in a very difficult time, there's going to be a second round. If we don't stand up now obviously I'm preaching to the choir. The reason we're here is trying to communicate to the outside world. This has real impact on real people. You know, when a state gets in the most trouble, and usually it happens in small business because small business employs these type of folks, the poison that a state drinks, you'll know it when you see it, is when they begin to export their youth because they don't have opportunities for them to stay here in Colorado. And it's lures at startup businesses where the young people, full of energy and ready to go, no roadblocks, except the federal government or the state government with these tax increases. These are tax increases, they have real consequences, and I appreciate all of you coming in. I appreciate the invitation. We're going everywhere we can just to lift the awareness factor. A lot of people aren't aware of this, of what's happening, what's going to hit them. When they become aware of it, it's just like this morning, when 275 people, and statistically it happened yesterday and it's going to happen tomorrow, get called into the boss's office and they say you're out of a job. Last year in this state we lost 115,000 jobs. There was only one industry that grew in jobs: government. The private marketplace in this state lost 115,000 jobs. They are supposed to be working for you. And it's these kind of things, although they seem incremental, they're not incremental. Let me finish with one story, and then I want to read the last paragraph of Laura's letter. I was in Hooper, Colorado not very long ago. Now, this was another tax increase. They call it a fee increase. We call it a tax increase. It's on the license plates. And there's a farmer down there. And we were having a town meeting in Hooper, which means about that many chairs in a little restaurant. And by the way, that fills the restaurant. And we were outside. This man was looking, he was my height. He was looking at me, he was crying. And he said to me, you don't know, the people don't know what they're doing to us. My margins are so tight. This is another, I think the number he gave me was $2,300. That's what it was going to cost me. He said, I don't have it. And he said, I don't have it, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I asked the gentleman, I said, sir, would you come into our little meeting and tell people, you know, what really happens to a person that's experiencing this? He wasn't mad at me, but he looked at me and he said, do you know what it takes? Do you know what the humiliation is and the embarrassment for a man to be crying in front of another man? He said, I'm not going in that meeting, and he turned around and walked away. That's what's happening to people out there with these increases. I want to tell you about a week ago, I got Laura's letter, copied on it fortunately, and I wanted to read the one paragraph here. Let me recap. This is Laura's letter to the legislators, which by the way was one of the finest written letters. And on behalf of I'm not working for the government, obviously I don't hold elected office, but I'm embarrassed by the fact that they didn't at least look you in the eye and tell you what they're gonna do to you. No explanation.
No auto reply even, I was afraid of that.
So here's her response. This is her concluding paragraph of a very well-done letter. Let me recap. With House Bill 1192, keep in mind now, it's not just 1192, you have 12 others, identical to this, but just a different small business they're hitting. The marketplace is discouraged from purchasing software. Software companies sell less. Software companies earn less. Software companies hire less. And the state of Colorado collects less. Who wins in this scenario? No one. I mean, you couldn't say it better than that. So thank you all for coming out. Help spread the word, and I hope that as time comes around, even on a bipartisan basis, ask those people, where were you when it counted?